There's also tentative talks, and I guess it's a rumor at this point that there are ongoing negotiations at the moment with Qatar about what should be done with the hostages, and if there can be a deal made for the rest of the hostages. Every day we discover that more of the people we thought were hostages were actually found dead by Israeli troops in Gaza, and we have a strong suspicion that in order to play games with us in psychological warfare, Hamas took a lot of dead bodies, people they'd already killed, over the border.
President Biden seems to be giving a very clear warning to Israel about the conduct of the war. Well, how much concern is there about the tenor of his comments?
Well, ultimately, President Biden has been a staunch supporter of the fact that Israel has to dismantle the genocidal terrorist infrastructure of Hamas. We saw that on Friday when he actually voted against the ceasefire, vetoed the resolution for the ceasefire in the Security Cabinet, with the aid that has been given to Israel fast. And so I think we have to look at his actions as well as his words, of course. He has many responsibilities, the President of the United States. None of us wanted this war. And I understand that, people are disturbed by the ugliness of war. War is ugly. Unfortunately, we have to defend ourselves here because Hamas is a clear and present threat. They keep saying that they want to continue to attack us and destroy us. And so we really don't have a choice.
But I wonder whether he's voicing a view of people who are supportive of Israel, who are moderate people, who just believe very clearly in Israel's right to exist, but they're tired, perhaps, of what feel like empty words from the Israeli government, from the IDF, who keep talking about they're making every effort to not cause civilian casualties, and yet have caused so many thousand civilian casualties. There's a point at which even moderate supporters of Israel run out of patience, and their concern for human life takes over the human life in Gaza. They clearly have concern for human life in Israel, but the concern for human life in Gaza takes over. And I wonder whether people's patience in that respect, including Joe Biden's, is running thin.
Well, I think we have to be realistic. We're the only army in the world that lets their enemy know where they're going to be attacking in order to help them save civilian lives from the other side. I don't think there's one army. If you look at the US fight with the UK and other allies for ISIS, I don't think anybody got warning ahead of time in order to save civilian lives. So let's not have double standards. We have to finish the job. We have to get rid of this terrible regime that is suppressing and oppressing its own people. And we take great care not to cause the casualties that can be avoided. But like I said, war is ugly.
And I just wonder whether people don't accept that, or they're accepting less, that you are taking great care. Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Western countries said at the UN last night, we are alarmed at the diminishing safe space for civilians in Gaza. And I think there's a distinction between the words that we hear, the care that's being taken by the IDF, and the results on the ground. And it just feels that momentum is building to say the support, maybe even so far as support by America, is not going to be unconditional. They're not going to simply say to you, you can carry on doing this, carry on bombing Gaza for the next indefinite period. At some point, they're going to say, you're going to have to stop.
Well, maybe people should be asking themselves why Egypt isn't opening its gates and giving refuge to these people until the end of the war. They do have a border with them. They could take refuge there. They could wait there until the end of the war, until we weed out all of the terrorists, and then bring them back. Why isn't that the question being asked? Why is it all on Israel? We were attacked. There was a massacre perpetrated against us. We are fighting a war we didn't want, we didn't start. And so why isn't Egypt, or why isn't the Americans, all the rest of the world demanding of Egypt the way that the UK have taken in refugees from everywhere in the world, Syria included? Why isn't Egypt helping out?
Because I think they would say that they absolutely accept what happened on October 7th, but the people that are dropping the bombs are Israel. And the feeling is that you can't...
Yeah, but why aren't they helping the civilians? Why aren't they helping the innocent civilians? And I'll tell you why they're not helping them, because they're scared that Hamas terrorists are also going to go into their borders. So nobody wants to deal with the terrorists of Hamas, except for us, because we have no choice.
Yeah. Where are we on the hostages? The reports last night that the IDF has started flooding Hamas tunnels with water, that's been talked about for some time. There must be concern in Israel that might compromise the safety of the hostages.
Well, there's also tentative talks, and I guess it's a rumor at this point that there are ongoing negotiations at the moment with Qatar about what should be done with the hostages, and if there can be a deal made for the rest of the hostages. Every day we discover that more of the people we thought were hostages were actually found dead by Israeli troops in Gaza. And we have a strong suspicion that in order to play games with us in psychological warfare, Hamas took a lot of dead bodies, people that already killed, over the border.
And do you feel though that that's awful what you've just said there? But do you feel are there rumours building that the negotiations, which were just seem to be completely stopped entirely, do you think they might be starting up again? Do you feel that there may
Yeah,
be some moves now?
well, I think that was the whole point of continuing with the offensive, that we're putting Hamas in a corner where the only card that they have, the only leverage they have, are the hostages. And that's what we wanted them, because we want our innocent civilians, including babies, back home.
Yeah, well, let's hope that does happen. We'll hope that negotiations can be back on the table again. Fleur, good to speak to you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
That's Fleur Hassan-Nahoum, Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem, talking about the international perspective, I suppose, on the Israeli military mission, which is seeming to change. The US are giving warnings, other countries are giving warnings. Maybe that will concentrate minds in Israel, or maybe it will not.